I think this is kind of an important conversation to have because of how the game has been getting received and like review bombed. There's a lot of people that I think have been review bombing the game because of like two things, because of a lack of understanding and because of like the expectations of like people on our side of the country, or well, our side of the globe really. But regardless, it doesn't matter. The current like free to play model is basically what Destiny 2 and like what RuneScape do, where you get like RuneScape you get like 10% of the game. Destiny 2 you get like almost nothing, and then you have to buy like every little itty bitty DLC and stuff depending on like what encounters you want to do and what gear you want to wear. And like Destiny 2 is probably the most egregious like Western audience game that does what it does with like the free to play but not really free to play kind of thing. So here's the thing. Right now Dark and Darker is the free to play model is one character slot, normals only. You can do all of the quests and fight all the bosses and all that stuff. Normals only. You don't get access to High Roller. You don't get access to the market. You don't get a shared stash tab, and you only have the one character slot. So a lot of people are review bombing it because they're saying that it's not a true free to play, because the normal assumption is that true free to play is about you have the whole game in front of you and you make money off of cosmetics. Like that's been the typical free to play model from games like Fortnite or Apex, or well, in the case of Apex you still have to purchase like additional heroes or whatever. League of Legends technically is like a free to play game because they have like that rotation every week where you change out like which are the free champions to play or whatever. But regardless, it doesn't matter. SDF basically I sent him a DM because he was like, what is going on? And I explained to him that the definition of free to play when the game was more like a trial version, even though if I may, the way that normals is in this game is like way more content than any other like quote unquote demo or trial version, because people that are unaccustomed to this game can spend hundreds of hours in normals and never beat like a boss in like Inferno, or especially not Ice Abyss, because Ice Abyss is easily the most difficult level I think now that exists in the game. But between the three bosses in Inferno and the Frost Wyvern, you can go hundreds of hours and never beat them, depending on like who your friends are and like how you are at games and you know that kind of thing. I think normal players are going to spend a long time running normals, and I think that the free-to-play guys want to be able to play High Roller just for the sake of having access to it, because they want to experience it, if only then to go in and like realize that they're not equipped to be able to handle like how High Roller works. But regardless, SDF wrote, I came back from a deep sleep because I overworked myself preparing for this season. And then he writes, looking at the situation, there seems to be confusion in the message regarding free to play. This is a free trial or demo version, but I think this message was conveyed incorrectly due to a mistake in the use of the word free to play. Sorry, I just realized that I'm kind of covering this. Let's fix this situation. We also plan to resolve issues with Epic Store payments and cross-platform links as quickly as possible. We'll try our best this weekend. So there's another issue with like, well, there's a couple of problems that they still have. One is people that get the free-to-play version are kind of getting lost in the process on how to upgrade from free-to-play to the paid version, which they're trying to do through like the Redstone like store system instead of having like a purchase option in Steam or directly in Epic Store. And then there's other people that are using those to upgrade their game version, and for whatever reason the game version is getting like rolled back to free to play, and they're losing like their progress, which I know that these guys are working on trying to fix right now. And then he also says, by the way, season rewards will be distributed within a few days. There was a slight delay due to difficulties arising during the patch preparation process. Sorry. And then lastly, there was a guy that said, how do you feel about reward tokens rolling over to the new season? So if you go into your characters, like if you have existing characters already, like this cleric, you can go and look at your class training section, and I have 25 reward tokens on my cleric that I can claim right now. It's because they forgot to reset the tokens in this case. Now, this isn't going to cause a rollback or anything. It was an oversight. Some people have like, you know, multiple characters worth of gear that they can roll for and whatever, and they can use. And they have a level 20 character, they can go run around in the dungeon or whatever. Most all of those items that end up rolling off of that aren't all that good to begin with. They might end up giving you like a kit or two or whatever worth of stats. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're all going to die and we're all going to lose the stuff regardless. So they might get like a little bit of a jump start for a couple of days. But for the most part, I mean, unless you're repos, you're probably not going to like benefit it from all that much. And right now the economy doesn't have hardly any gold in it to begin with, so I don't see that like this is going to be like a huge issue. It's not like the best thing in the world, but I don't think it's the end of the world. Then he writes, so far, we're still small and so focused that we're missing out on a lot of things. We'll try to reduce mistakes more in the future. First of all, let us quickly solve this current problem, is what he says. So at the very least, we know that they're going to modify like the verbiage and try and change it so that the Steam listings and stuff don't say like free to play, because of like how people are looking at this definitively and like the definition of what free to play is for most gamers in at least in our end of the globe, like I said, in the Western world, versus like how it was marketed. And I actually believe SDF in this regard, you know, like they probably just borrowed a game model that has worked and was received rather well from a game like Destiny 2. Because if you look at, hold on, let me just show you this, okay? Destiny 2's game model, like the way Dark and Darker is marketing themselves is like the Temu of fucking Destiny 2 in their game model, right? So user reviews in this case are listed as very positive for Destiny 2. There's 599,696 reviews for Destiny 2 that remark very positive, and I think very positive is like more than 80% of the reviews are positive, with the most recent being almost 8,000 reviews at mostly positive, 71%, right? So this is 80% of almost 600,000 views are positive in the most recent, right? And this is like in the last 30 days, there's been 8,000 reviews in the last 30 days that say 71% of them are positive. So you have a game that is significantly more like grifty in terms of how it markets itself with all the DLCs that you have to buy and a $100 annual pass for the final shape, and it's still being regarded as like, you know, pretty good, right? And then you look at Dark and Darker, which is like significantly less, and they're regarding it as mostly negative because they're looking at the normal game mode and how rough it is, right? And I understand people's desire to want to use gear, but it's one of those things where it's like they want access to a game mode, which I can understand wanting access to the game mode. They want access to a game mode so that they can run around or have extra character slots, and I understand wanting all that stuff, especially the extra character slot or 2 or 5 or whatever. But then they're going to get into HR and they're going to realize how outclassed they are, and they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to go back to normals for 200 hours. It's like they just want to go in and experience it and realize like how out of their depth they are, and if only then to go back and have to, you know what I mean? But the important part is that they're going to fix it, I think. Destiny is also free to play, but you need to buy DLCs to unlock the story and level your character up. Yeah, exactly, right? And that's what I mean. Like in the case of Dark and Darker, you're talking about like hundreds of hours of content if you're the type of person that wants to like actually beat some shit, right? Like you will run normals until you like bleeding out the eyes, trying to get down to Inferno to like beat the Lich, let's say. And it will take you many attempts. And then you have Warlord, who's harder than all of them, and Ghost King, right? And it's doable. Like people have videos of them soloing all of those bosses now. Like, you know, Warlord finally was able to be soloed like by a bard, for instance, in HR. But you still have to like replicate that. There's knowing it, and then there's like doing it. And the doing is the hard part, right? So you're talking about like not even being able to overcome like the normal difficulties in terms of like, you know, bosses and stuff, and wanting access to an HR mode where then you have uncapped gear from your opponents that will literally steamroll you because you don't know what you're doing, right? So it's almost like you want something that you don't understand like how it's going to harm you. You know what I mean? But regardless, they're going to remarket it as like a free trial or something along those lines. That is kind of like how like Final Fantasy does it, right? So you got Final Fantasy 14, and they remark the like the free to play or the starter edition as like they market like the starter pack as like the starter edition of the game. Like you don't have access to all like the latest content and stuff, right? So, and I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to market it as like a free trial. It wouldn't be a problem. So here's the other piece of like the normal debate thing. It wouldn't be a problem if you could use loot in normals, right? So once upon a time, there was only normals, right? And there was no high roller. They added high roller like after the fact, like in later playtests. But in normals, anyone could run any gear that they wanted to. What ended up occurring was people, rather than spending 100 gold to go into high roller, would wear all of their best gear and be in the same lobbies as guys that had nothing. And it was even more of a power difference. right? So you would have dudes that would purposefully wear like the most decked out crazy shit, right? I'm talking like long swords that when they hit people would proc a lightning bolt, okay? And would fry someone in a single hit and would go roll through teams by themselves just because they had like amazing shit on. So you had all of these Timmies that were going into normal lobbies and they were just getting absolutely decimated by these guys that were like demigod fucking ultra rollers with like crazy shit on, because that's the game, right? Normals isn't set up with the like white quality gear cap because they're trying to like limit people and make them buy like the better game version. Normals is set up like it is because they're trying to limit the gear disparity between guys that have everything and dudes that are trying to learn. And it was like this before any of the Steam stuff. And a lot of the review bombs that are happening are because people are like, well, I can't use my gear in normal lobbies because they're just trying to make me spend money. And it's actually not that at all. They're trying to keep the people that have crazy shit out of normal lobbies so that the guys that are playing in normals can have a more pure gaming experience and learn how to play the game. That's why they do it that way. So it's one of those things where like a lot of people just don't, like they don't have an understanding of like the history of the context, but they're reviewing it as if like, and they're reviewing it based on their perception, which you can't blame them for, right? But you try to explain to them like the history and why things are the way they are, and then they go like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. Well, but it looks bad, and it does. Don't get me wrong, it looks bad. And they obviously have to make some adjustments. What I worry about in this case, in the case of like the review history and like review bombing and shit, is that people are going to look at this like, oh, they got caught and that's why they changed it or something. You know, like it instead of it just being like an innocent mistake on their part, because like they're really not trying to fleece people. And that's like, I think that's the overarching like message, if there was anything that I'd want to portray. And it sounds like I'm defending like the game devs or whatever, but I'm not. Not in the sense of like I like them so I'm trying to give them a pass. It's not like that. Like I have always tried to call a spade a spade. These guys have always felt like they are trying to be very, very honest about what they are and how they're trying to like do their things, and they're trying to make sure that they do it in a way that isn't predatory, like, because they want to be regarded as like upstanding people. Like they're not trying to fuck dudes over, you know. They're just looking at a way to like, they're just trying to find a way so that people want to like get in and like try their game, and if they like it, they buy it. That's literally all they're trying to do. Yeah, I think it's just a miscommunication, and I'm objectively speaking, I think it's just a miscommunication. It's not like I'm trying to shill for them, like they don't pay me anything, you know. I don't know, I'm trying to be as like straightforward as I possibly can without trying to sound like I'm just like mindlessly defending them, because that's not what I'm trying to do. They need to change, but they need to change how it's being marketed. They need to market the game as like a free trial, but it's already been acknowledged by the guy that handles like the business dealings for the company and the dude that's like the creative director for the company. So it will get fixed. And I think that's the important thing. They paid you 100%. I know. I'm fucking shilling. If they were trying to fleece people, they wouldn't have made it free to trial. Yeah, I mean, like, they probably would have gotten, like, significantly less, like, flack, pushback, whatever, review crap, if they had just made the game, like, $30 or $35 and listed it on Steam, and that was it. But I think that they were just trying to get an influx of new players to try the game, to see if they liked it. And it wasn't about, like, trying to limit them or, like, you know, give them a shot and be like, all right, I'll give us, you know, like, it's just kind of silly. One shill, yeah.